Welcome everyone to tonight's event, which is called Cheaper and Faster Ways to Become a Registered Dietitian. My name is Jenny Westerkamp. I'm the founder of All Access Dietetics. I do these events every other week, I'm pretty sure, where we do live events on different hot topics of dietetics. And we know that the path to becoming a dietitian is expensive and it takes a long time. And so I thought that this topic would be interesting to start to brainstorm and give you more ideas around ways that this could be less money or possibly quicker that you weren't aware of before. I do know if you, let's see, there was a previous event, I think either last month or maybe now it's 2 months ago, but we have the recordings on our website. But one was on how to become a dietitian, which goes through the pathways to becoming a dietitian. And we have a guide that goes through all this. So I'm going to allude to that in this talk tonight, but I am going to dive more into just the ideas, give you some real life scenarios of things that future dietitians have done to make it cheaper and faster for themselves. So we see some people here from Texas, New Jersey, another Texas. So that's great. If you want to put in the chat where you're from or what school you're in, that would be awesome. And I see some of you, okay, career changer. Kristen, I'm in Chicago too. That's cool. And I live actually right by Northwestern if you happen to work there. But yeah, this is good. I think there's going to be career changers on here, DPD students that are maybe earlier on in their career. So this will just help you as you decide, like, what is your pathway to that RD credential? All right, let's get into it. So we'll talk about program types, some pathways, at least one specific pathway, some quote cheaper tips, some faster tips, and then talk about increasing your chances as well. So even if you know, okay, these are the programs I really want to get into, how do we make sure you get into those programs? And finally, question and answer. I do have my screen set up, kind of a pro at this now, so I can definitely read the chat as I'm talking. If you want to ask questions, I will be keeping my eye on there throughout the whole presentation. I do think this presentation, while I haven't done this exact one, I think we'll probably go about 35 to 40 minutes and then leave time for questions at the end as well. So don't hesitate to get what you need out of this presentation, especially if you came here for a specific question that's not getting answered. Put it in the chat. I'll make sure to answer it. A couple other things before we get into it. So we do have dietetics admissions coaching for those of you that are in the, oh, okay, sorry, I'm distracted now by Kristen. Cool, yes, Northwestern, but in a different area, very cool. So we have a admissions coaching program that we've been doing this since I started the company in 2009. And we have like kind of an all-inclusive one called Dietetics Admissions Coaching. And then we have just personal statement coaching now. This is new. We actually haven't really fully launched this yet, but it is available. And we've been helping thousands and thousands of students since 2009 with their personal statement and selling their story, sharing their story with directors. So we have an amazing deal going on right now that we'll be running through the rest of this month into next month for Black Friday, where you can get 30% off of that coaching package or 40% off of the all-inclusive program. And you can, I'll just drop the link in here if that does interest you, and you can click on that, open it in a window, and then come back to that later. But we do have that going on. Now with program types, there is a guide that is in our section of our website called How We Can Help, which there's this free guide that talks about all the different pathways, but just to get everyone on the same page so we understand. And so if I talk about these, you'll know what I mean. These are the different program types that are available to you. So you have the coordinated programs, which are programs that include coursework and supervised practice. But that's going to be kind of like an all-in-one, typically at the bachelor or master's level. It's going to be more popular now that they'll be at the master's level since a master's degree is now required, but they include the DPD coursework plus the supervised practice. And then DPD, Didactic Program in Dietetics, is just the coursework. It's a specific accredited list of courses that you need to take in order to qualify you for a dietetic internship. Dietetic internship is the next program type. Dietetic internship is just supervised practice, although there are dietetic internships and sometimes coursework or graduate school or a completely combined dietetic internship plus graduate program that is available. And so among these first three, it kind of depends, like this is sort of your entry point sometimes into the field without necessarily a master's. But those are the three different types. And then you have individualized supervised practice pathways. That is for those that have PhDs already in something else, or they went through a match process with dietetic internships and did not get matched. I do see these going away, or at least becoming very, very not popular. Oftentimes schools will have multiple program types and they'll just include an ISPE as one of their program types, but they have all the others. I'm seeing way less like standalone ISPE programs. So those are just not as popular. And finally, the newest type of program in the last, I think, 5 or 6 years are the graduate programs in nutrition and dietetics. And I say that as an actual title of a program type, not just generally speaking, a graduate program in nutrition. That is not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the specific accredited graduate programs in nutrition and dietetics. I call them GPINs. GPINDS. And these programs are going to include courses plus supervised practice at the graduate level. And a DPD, that DPD coursework is oftentimes not required in order to get into this specific type of graduate program in nutrition and dietetics. Where you can kind of take this into practice and see, like, go to the different program type, different programs, go to their websites to understand, read about them. Even if you have no intention of going to them, just read about them to understand their structure, how they're set up, what their admissions requirements are, and it'll put some life to these definitions. I also think that you might get confused with graduate programs in nutrition and dietetics, as they might be called future graduate programs or future education model programs. So that's what they were called when they were piloting this and testing and making sure that this model proved to be effective, which it has proven to be effective. So now the new name, now that it's not the future anymore, the future is here, is graduate programs in nutrition and dietetics. So I do see a question here. Do you need your verification statement to get into every graduate program or coordinated program? Do you need your verification statement to get into a coordinated program? So graduate programs in nutrition and dietetics, and then coordinated programs at either the bachelor's level or the master's level don't require DPD courses for you to be able to apply and get into them. Coordinated programs that are based on in a graduate level, of course you would need, and for both, I guess, you need a bachelor's degree. That would be the prerequisites, but you wouldn't need the full-on DPD coursework unless that's what that program specifically requested. I'm going to get more into graduate programs in the next slide, but the answer is that you don't need a verification statement, which you're referring to a verification statement with the DPD courses, I believe, in order to get into a graduate program or a coordinated program. You do not need that. So that can be the first entry into dietetics for people, or especially career changers. You can go right into a coordinated program or right into a graduate program, or you can go right into a didactic program in dietetics. Didactic programs in dietetics also could be either like have a degree given, or just a DPD certificate program, which means you just take the courses required and just get a certificate. The really tricky thing about that, I know I'm speaking to a lot of different types of people, so this might not apply to you, but if you were thinking about doing a DPD certificate program, just be very aware that if you're like a career changer and you have a bachelor's degree in fitness or exercise science, and then you do a DPD certificate, and then you do a DI, and maybe get your master's in anything, then you might not be eligible for your state's licensure, which your school should tell you that, but that is something to keep in mind because some states require that you have a bachelor's or a graduate program in nutrition. So just make sure if DPD certificate was on your mind, want you to look more closely into that, make sure you would meet your state's licensure requirements. Okay. So I want to dive deeper into the graduate program in nutrition and dietetics, formerly known as the future education model, because this one is very popular for not only DPD graduates, but also for career changers or people that are just thinking about this, or maybe have a bachelor's degree. Maybe you didn't have a full-on career. Maybe you just had a bachelor's degree in something else, or you just didn't get your DPD courses, already, and you're thinking like, I still want to become a dietitian. How can I do that? It's exciting to me because I feel like I've been working with future dietitians for 15 years now, and for career changers or major changers to become dietitians, previously it would have required potentially another bachelor's degree to get all the DPD courses and just do a bachelor's in dietetics. So in another like 4 years, and then a internship or an internship plus master's. So you're looking at like 6 years investment into this field if you didn't already have a bachelor's in nutrition or whatever. So that's changed, and that's really exciting to me because now they could get a bachelor's degree in anything, literally anything. And we've had students work with us with our coaching or like, I have a bachelor's in music, I have a bachelor's in finance, I have a bachelor's in sociology. And their fastest step is to apply to a graduate program in nutrition and dietetics that has not a lot of prerequisites in it. And there are programs that have as little as 3 prerequisites or like 1 semester, and then go into your graduate program plus your supervised practice and sit for the RD exam. And let's say like 3 years or maybe 2.5, depending on the program, if there's like a really short accelerated one, but like 2.5, 3 years from the time you decide, hey, I want to become a dietitian to sitting for that RD exam. That's the shortest it's ever been. And it's exciting because it prevents that barrier of time and even money. It's technically, quote, cheaper. It's still not cheap to become a dietitian, but it's cheaper by going this pathway. I've spoken to students on the phone and been like, they didn't know that this existed. And they're like, you just saved me tens of thousands of dollars because I thought I needed a whole bachelor's degree and then a master's degree on top of it in order to become a dietitian and an unpaid internship. Well, no, you can look into these graduate programs in nutrition and dietetics and could see that there's a different pathway here for you. The prerequisites, like I said, they do vary. There's very few, but I think there's about 80 of these programs now, and there's continues to be more and more because programs are converting to this model. But there are, it could be as many as DPD, getting that DPD certificate, or as little as like 2 or 3 courses. An example of one that has only 3 prerequisites is University of New England. That's just one example. It's an online distance one, but so you might not want that type of program, but it does only have 3 prerequisites and very popular for career changers. And then you have supervised experiential learning. That is the new name for rotations. So in dietetic internships, that was the supervised practice portion of the RD requirements. And now through this graduate program, it's called supervised experiential learning. The reason for that is this new model of education is competency-based. And it's different than how the DPD coursework plus the dietetic internship, how that was designed, because that was based on hours of time. So like rotations had to be, like when I became a dietitian, I had to have 1,200 hours of supervised practice through my rotations. But now this type of program is competency-based education, which means there's no set time frame for specific rotations. You just have to meet certain competencies, and then once you do, you can move on. But you might have to spend more time in a certain area to build up your competency, prove that, and then move on to the next. It's still like roughly within the same amount of time, but it is a different flow and design of the education model, which this is happening in all of healthcare provider education. So dietetics is just kind of going along with this more proven model. And that's why they're still seeing really good results with the outcomes of people that go through graduate programs in nutrition and dietetics, even though they don't have that DPD coursework and that like foundation. Because of the model of the program, they're finding success in it because it's designed differently and it's at the graduate level versus bachelor level. So the competencies are designed to be more comprehensive and at a higher level than current DI and CP programs, so dietetic internship and coordinated programs. I'm not dissing or bashing DIs or coordinated programs. They are also based on models that have proven to be effective. But that was assuming that they had DPD coursework. Either with the DI, you have DPD coursework before you go to the DI, or the coordinated program included DPD coursework. I might be giving you guys too much, but this is how you try to make decisions on the type of program that you want to go through. Okay, so another question here. Is a DPD verification statement still valid after receiving it over 2 years ago? I think you mean. So DPD, there's a requirement that program directors will have, which is called a recency of education requirement. And they want you to have your DPD within 5 years. So if you have it within 5 years, you are good to go. It's still valid. If it's more than 5 years, then what they will suggest typically, and this varies by program, but they'll say, we'd like you to retake medical nutrition therapy and biochem. Those are the two most popular ones they want you to retake more recently, so that you can, it's sort of like you brushing up on your DPD courses with those two specific courses. Or they'll say, if you have your DTR, your diet technician registered, then you can, that also qualifies as a recency of education thing, so you don't need to retake any classes. So that's my answer to that. All right, you're welcome. Okay, so we talked about the different program types. We talked about the this graduate program in nutrition and dietetics because it is newer. It's, like I said, been around, just been under a different name, and then there are only about like 80 programs. But like I said, I do think people are programs are moving to this model. And so from there, I want to get into some cheaper tips, like quote cheaper tips and quote faster tips, and hoping that these will help you think about your path. So with the quote cheaper tips, these are some ideas. So when you think about how can I reduce the investment, or, you know, is there a cheaper way for me to become a dietitian? First, we have a program database that is downloadable and can be filtered. And so you can download this database for free off our website, and it's under How We Can Help, the tab How We Can Help. And in that database, once you download it, you can go to the tuition tab, and there's like a resident tuition, a non-resident tuition, and filter it by smallest to, you know, smallest number to largest number. And that can help you to even see, and then you can even filter by state, depending on where you need to go. And you can see very quickly some of these costs that it would be. And then you can start to identify like the lower tuition programs. And then graduate assistantships. Oh, sorry, one more thing about filtering by tuition is that don't filter it by the specific states if you are open to distance programs. So you don't want to exclude them from your search, because some distance programs, if you're okay with doing that type of program, then you would be able to, you'd want to keep that included. So don't filter by states then, because you won't see the distance ones. And then the next tip is graduate assistantships, financial aid, stipends. Again, if you are going through the path of graduate program, then that is going to be more available to you than the standalone dietetic internship. Of course, you know, a dietetic internship alone is something that you can still do, but now most dietetic internships are requiring a master's before. So you might think, okay, maybe I'll do just the master's program and find a master's program like in anything, assuming you have a DPD. Sorry, this is so confusing. So if you're someone that has a DPD or has done a DPD and you have the option to do just a dietetic internship, since that's a requirement to do a dietetic internship, I'm talking to you. So that means that if you have the DPD, now to get into a dietetic internship, they require the master's or doing the master's at the same time, but it doesn't have to be with that dietetic internship, right? It can be a master's in anything. So you can get a DPD, a dietetic internship, and a master's in anything, and complete all your, you know, what you need for the RD. So in that case, it opens up your options to different graduate programs. It doesn't have to be the ones that are the future education model, those ones. It could be any graduate program, in which case there might be cheaper options there, or more opportunity for assistantships or financial aid or stipends, depending on what your research turns up. So it allows you to have more options and potentially have a lower cost graduate program. If you have a DPD, do that, and then do a shorter dietetic internship or a cheaper dietetic internship. So you can see how you can be creative with like the exact programs that you choose, and getting to like that lowest cost program of a program that you would still be excited about attending. And then there are VA, Veterans Affairs, or WIC based programs, and specifically dietetic internships. So again, this is only for people that have the DPD already that would be eligible for this, but those are really interesting and are worth searching. The state or the federal government will have those listed on their website of all the different locations for WIC internships and for Veterans Affairs internships. A lot of them do have stipends and have incredible training, and those positions can be interesting. Like for WIC, it can be a really reduced tuition, and then they if you promise to work thereafter for a little bit, then they reimburse you on that. So of course, check out the specific ones to get the actual details, but they're worth exploring if you're open to that arrangement. And then take a gap year. This sounds like kind of a silly tip, although I have found that future dietitians need permission to go at their own pace and their own timing. I do think that it feels very stressful because it seems like you have to just do these steps back to back to back to back, and you don't. And I just want to give you permission to, if you need to take a gap year and that's something, like explore that and see if that's better for you financially. If you know, just to separate the time so that you can maybe work or save money or whatever it is, and then be in a different financial situation going into your next phase of your education. Same with like doing a part-time program and keeping a part-time job. Those are available, part-time graduate programs, part-time dietetic internships. So those are available, and even asking the directors of those programs, even if it maybe isn't like clear on their website, asking the director if they do offer a part-time track or where you can take less credit hours, if it's flexible there, it's worth asking because sometimes it can be. And then there are some other free programs. I put that on the unique programs page, so I'll get to those, a couple ideas, but we are seeing a trend towards this trying to reduce cost of programs and trying to reduce tuition and even provide hourly wages for dietetic interns. So changes are happening. It's just very slow, but there are a few examples. Okay, another question that came in: if you already have a DPD, what do you think would be a helpful non-nutrition master's degree to have? Great question, Courtney. So it's exciting if you have your DPD because you do have those options. Like I'll make a very like kind of crazy like idea, right? So you could have your DPD, you could literally go get your MBA at Harvard. Not that you would do this, maybe you could, but you could. You can go get your MBA at Harvard and then go do a dietetic internship after that and become a dietitian with an MBA from Harvard. Like you just don't see that, right? Because it wasn't as much of an option as it was, or maybe people became RDs and then they got master's degree in anything and everything. But it really depends on how you want to use it, where you want to grow professionally. I do wish that we didn't have to get the master's right away, because I think it's hard to know what you want to do to get that advanced education. But I would say the ones to explore would be like a public health, psychology, or health psychology. I know a dietitian that works for me is getting her health psychology master's. You have like more functional nutrition type specialties if you want to dive deeper into that, like more integrative nutrition focused. And then the MBA, the Master's in Business Administration, is interesting and applicable depending on where you want to go. Master's in Nutrition Communication, or even, you know, education, like getting a master's in education. If that's something that you want to do eventually, then that would be another type of master's. So I just gave you a couple ideas of things that like would be relevant and not just in nutrition. I don't think it's bad to get a master's in nutrition, even though you have the DPD. I just have heard like you just want to really understand the curriculum of that master's degree and make sure that you feel like you will be growing and you're going to be exposed to additional topics, as opposed to kind of getting a repeat of your DPD. And I'm not saying that's the case for all masters in nutrition, but you want to check that and feel like that would be something extra outside of your background that you already have. Okay, so those are some cheaper tips. And then the faster tips, because sometimes cheaper and faster don't go together, right? Because if you take a gap year, that's not necessarily faster. So that's why I separated them. Now, faster tips, definitely the GPINs. And so, and I'll get to this question in a second, Elias, but so the GPIN programs tend to be the fastest route for people that go through and are either career changers or major changers, have a bachelor's in anything. This is going to be the fastest route just because it's not going to require an entire DPD in order to get in. And then you do want to explore programs that have the fewest prerequisites, which will just take some research, but I told you about University of New England. The other one is Union Institute. Those are both online. So, you know, whatever you think in terms of how few you want to do, but those do exist. And then if you do have your DPD and you can do a dietetic internship, then there's 6-month dietetic internship programs that exist as well. Some of them are even distance, but they're very accelerated and you can get it done in 6 months, which is just better so then you can start working again or whatever it is there. And then there's programs that have rolling admissions, especially these graduate programs in nutrition and dietetics, because a lot of times people will think, oh, I have to wait until like the match deadline or like February, or there's like, usually grad schools are just have like spring deadlines or whatever. There are a lot of programs that are taking applications every single quarter or like every semester. And so just don't assume that you have to wait to apply. You might be able to start earlier than you think. And finally, prior assessed learning. So this concept is for, I think actually it's for both. It's for graduate programs with the supervised practice or dietetic internships. But if you're strategic about where you work or where you get experience as a student, you could have experience that counts towards your rotation hours or your supervised experiential learning competencies, and then shorten the amount of time you need to spend in the program. So you'd want to ask directors of programs you're interested in, do you have prior assessed learning? Like, can I reduce that amount of time that based on my work experience? Of course, you have to have work experience that's really higher level. So like working in a hospital or food service manager or working in WIC or other community nutrition type area, but that is something that could lower your time in the program and make it faster. Okay, so a few questions come in, so I'm gonna pause here and answer them. So we have a question. I am already in a nutrition master's program in New Jersey. Well, this is great news. It is very expensive. A friend of mine told me not to do a cheaper distance program because I am going to be helped with my DI. I would have to call companies for internship time, but with no guarantees of that happening, and I will be stopped with this process. Okay, so you're referring to distance programs that, yes, you, with a distance program, you are more responsible for finding your rotation sites. And what changed though in 2022 is that directors were then, they made it so that directors were ultimately responsible. They would still want the student to work on them on their own, but they were then responsible for making sure that their students that they accepted could find their sites. And it put more pressure on the program so that you didn't have these students being like, they got accepted and then they have these rotations fall through and they can't complete the program. And so in 2022, they did make it so that even for distance programs, even though you do have to go out and look for sites, that the program now has to make sure that they have backup sites for you to do or to be a part of. And they're have to have like a role, like a position created for that, like a, what do they call it? Oh my gosh, experiential coordinator was then a requirement of these distance programs so that this wasn't happening. Because you're right, like it is really scary to go into a program with no guarantees that you could even find your sites, and then you're stuck like in that program. So they changed that. So I do want to clarify that. And then you're saying here, I really want to save money, but do not want to waste time with something not fruitful. Completely agree. It was a problem in the past. It's been like remediated. It's been like it's been fixed in the sense that the program now has responsibility that you find your sites, even though it might ask you to find them, you know, to do some work on the upfront, but then they're going to be ultimately responsible that they find you those sites, but they won't do that until you get accepted. Okay, so I guess my final statement, just to give you like the final thought, is that you should feel confident applying to distance programs and feel confident that you would get the sites that you needed to be able to complete the program. So that's what I'm trying to say. All right, thank you for that question. And then for clarification, if you have a master's, you do not need a DPD. So it depends on the pathway you're going through. So if you have a master's, I guess it depends on what your education is in addition to that. So let's say you have a bachelor's in music, and then you have a master's in nutrition. You are not eligible for a dietetic internship unless you have a DPD. So this is a kind of a tricky thing for people to be in, because they still need to get the DPD courses and a dietetic internship, or they have to get the GPIND, the graduate program in nutrition and dietetics, to sit for the RD exam. So if you can clarify a little bit more on like the exact schools that you've been to, and like if they were DPD or what they were, that would help me tell you if you need a DPD or not. Okay. And then Ashley, is the DPD the coursework that you take during undergrad or grad school? I'm currently completing my bachelor's in nutrition science, and this is the first time I'm hearing about a DPD. Okay. So you would want to find out if your bachelor's in nutrition is a DPD program. And if you tell me the school, I could maybe, if you chat in the school, I could like look it up and tell you, but it might not be a DPD. So you do want to check on that, because there are definitely programs that, okay, UIC. So, and I'm right here in Chicago, so I'm familiar with that. So it might say like RD track, you know, I mean, definitely confirm with your advisor, but I know that they have a, like, they have a bachelor's degree, and then you can then apply into their DPD program like later on, or do their coordinated master's program. So you would do a bachelor's at UIC and then go into their coordinated master's program, which would be DPD plus rotations. So I know that's what's going on at UIC. They put the DPD courses in their graduate coordinated program. So, okay. And then, is James Madison University a DPD school? You know, if you look at the program database that is on our website, then you can go to the DPD tab and you can see all the DPD programs that are there. And James Madison, even if you just Google James Madison DPD, I think you should be able to find it. Let's see if we can just pull it up. Yeah, so the James Madison University has a DPD program. It's an accredited DPD, so you're good there. Great questions. Yeah, it's helpful for you to just share like your individual experience, because I know there's so many different backgrounds, educational backgrounds of future dietitians, that it's hard for me to kind of give you the like very clear information. It really depends on your education history, which is why like the guide that I set up on the website, like how to become a dietitian, it's sectioned off by your education history and every possible pathway you could take to the RD exam. All right, here's one more question from Kylie. So if you get accepted into a graduate program that does not require a DPD to get in, are you taking DPD coursework in the grad program to be prepared for the DI? So no, so the graduate program, if you're referring to the official type of program, the graduate program in nutrition and dietetics. So if you're referring to that program is the coursework and the supervised practice needed to sit for the RD exam. But if you're not referring to that, if you're referring to just a general graduate program, that's not the specific 80 that I was talking about. If you're referring to any graduate program, then you would need to take separate DPD classes, like a DPD certificate, and then be able to apply to the DI, because the DI, you can only get into a DI with DPD courses. So then you say, I know there are some programs that combine the dietetic internship and coursework, though. That is coordinated programs. So that's the DPD coursework plus the supervised practice. Those are called coordinated programs. My undergraduate degree is in health sciences, and I don't know if I need to complete the verification statement or not. So if your undergraduate is in health sciences, then your pathway is either DPD certificate to, hold on. It's like master's degree, DPD certificate DI, or a coordinated master's degree, or a GPIND. Those are your main pathway options. So, okay. Again, that guide, let me, I should probably have grabbed that, but I guess I'll just drop in the homepage here. And then if you go to the page that says how we can help, the first how we can help on the page is the guide, which you can then scroll to the part that says I have a bachelor's in something other than nutrition. And then it tells you all your possible program combinations to get to the RD. And then you can take those program options, or like the pathways, and then go get the second thing on the list, which is our program database. And then you can go to the tabs of those different programs to see which programs you would be interested in. All right. Thanks for all these great questions, everyone. I really appreciate you sharing with me. So this is what I was kind of getting into with starting your research. So you can see, okay, I have all these options. I have all this different background in my education. So if you need one-on-one support, we have that with Dietetics admissions coaching. Like I said, it's 40% off right now for our Black Friday sale, just announcing it early here on this event. And then personal statement coaching as well. So if you do identify those programs you want to apply to, then you can do that personal statement coaching. And then the free resources that are on the How We Can Help page, the Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Dietitian. We also have a free application toolkit with like personal statement checklists and videos and things. And then a program database, which, like I said, is great for just filtering by tuition, filtering by program length. I didn't put that in there either. But if you wanted to find like a 6-month dietetic internship, filter by program length to identify those programs very easily. And so one other question come in. Oh, okay. So you clarified on your education here. So she has a bachelor's in dietetics and have your DPD, but took a break to get my MPH this past summer, but not ready to go straight into applying for an internship. So my DPD is approaching the 5-year mark. So in the case my DPD ends up being more than 5 years, can I apply for an internship? You can. You just might have to take a refresher course in MNT and biochem. So, and you can do that like through online, like at a college or community college. You could take biochem, but then might have to do like an online dietetics programs MNT course. So you try to avoid that if you can, but obviously it's still an option that you could brush up and do those requirements and then be able to apply to an internship. Okay, awesome. And here's some unique programs that could be of interest to you. And in University of New England, they're the one that I spoke about that's a GPIND that only has 3 courses for requirements. So you can actually take their prerequisites online there through their program and then continue with their GPIND from there. So it's kind of nice because it's just all in one school and you get accepted into the GPIND right away, so that you just take the prereqs and then get the acceptance right away. So it's just like lower risk. And like I said, it's very common for career changers to do this one. I would just say, yes, the distance, there is that extra work with trying to find sites, but ultimately the program has to help you find those sites for your supervised experiential learning. And it just really depends too. Like I will say this to people, we've done admissions coaching now for 14 years, and there are so many reasons, so many factors for what people want to get out of their education, and none of them is wrong. Like some people, like they just want it to be the cheapest, or they just want it to be the fastest, but some people want to have hospital-based training, or they don't want to get their sites, don't want to have to go find their sites or whatever it is. So I'm not forcing the cheapest and fastest programs on you. That's just what the theme of this day is. But you could have other interests. You could want other things out of your program or out of your investment. And so that I give you freedom and permission to do that. and so for example, like there's dietetic internships at amazing teaching hospitals, and maybe that's really important to you that you get that clinical training, whereas maybe in a distance you might be at a smaller community hospital. So it's just what you want out of your investment and what's important to you, what your values are. So I just want to make sure that's clear, and that I'm not just pushing you towards cheap and fast, because you might want other things out of your education and your investment, than it just being lowest cost and fastest. But okay. And then Priority Nutrition Care is a unique program because you can do their DI first and then do a master's in anything after that, but you must have your DPD in order, because it's a dietetic internship, so you need that DPD. But that's like an accelerated one, and they've been around. They're one of the first distance programs, so they have a lot of sites across the country, which is interesting because they've had so many interns go through them. I talked about Veterans Affairs and WIC programs where stipends are available, as well as working agreements. I know there's some students that I've worked with where they've worked for WIC, which makes them eligible to then do the WIC internship, and then they can stay with WIC after that, and it would be like no tuition on the program, but then they can either stay with them for, I think it's 2 years or possibly 3 years that you have to work for WIC after, but you can also buy out that contract, and by that time you might have like a different job lined up, in which case you can sort of pay back what they invested. So it's kind of like getting a loan in a way, where you're doing the program, staying with them, but then you end up not having to do the 3 years, you just pay back the loan. But it's also lower than like a typical program, so the loan wouldn't be as high. There's some free internships out there. So OSF is one in Peoria, Illinois. It's completely free, no tuition. Of course, you're not getting paid, but at least you're not paying tuition. And then same with Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, also is free, no tuition, but not getting paid. There is one program, this is like one of the first programs, the University of Kentucky Healthcare, that is paying their interns $15 an hour. This is a dietetic internship. I think also technically, like in graduate assistantships, like in graduate programs, you can get paid through that and like through your financial aid package. So this is speaking more to like dietetic internships right now, but yeah, at least we know change is hopefully coming there. And then Sodexo is a very popular program because they have, I think, almost 200 spots, and they have sites across the country, and they place you in those sites. So it's kind of nice because if you're in one of their locations, you don't have to move. But look up Sodexo because they have 50% tuition relief for over 50 interns. And they do require a working agreement, but Sodexo is one of the #1 private employer of dietitians, and they have a lot of different areas that they hire dietitians in. So it might be a good deal for you. Definitely worth checking out if you've never heard of them before. So those are some unique programs I thought I would bring your attention to. And then I have another program here. The programs that you state that you can earn your master's in 15 months or less and help out with your RD license, like Marshall. Oh yeah, Marshall is the GPIN. How real is it that you can earn your master's in such a short amount of time? So the reason why is just based on the design of the graduate program, where they're including your supervised experiential learning for credit, which isn't always the case in graduate programs. And so the fact that they've structured it that way allows you to earn more credit for your supervised experiential learning, or like your rotation time, and that cuts down on course time needed. And so that's why they can get through it faster. So that would be my answer. And those are great programs. Again, they have to meet all these accreditation standards. They have to show that they have a really good pass rate with this design of their program, and they are. And so you can feel confident that it's going to prepare you for what you need, but it might be harder because it's so accelerated. So that would be something to consider as well. Like looking at the schedule, like seeing how condensed it is, it would be harder because of that. Okay, another question. For the free DI programs, do you need your master's prior to applying? I think almost all of them are saying you either need to do it at the same time, you need to show that you're in a master's program at the same time, or I mentioned priority nutrition care is the only one that doesn't require you to have started it when you start their DEI. But to get a verification, so there's two different verifications, like there's a DPD verification statement, but then there's a verification statement at the end that makes you eligible for the RD exam. And these DI programs won't give you the verification statement until you prove that you got your master's degree. So people can like do their DI and then like priority nutrition, they can do a master's degree after they complete their DI. When they complete their DI, they have to go back to priority nutrition to say, I completed my master's. Can you give me my RD exam eligibility verification statement now? And then they can give it to you. So that's the only thing to think about. Oh, and you said, are the free DI programs? Sorry, I misread that. Do you need master's? Oh, okay. Yes, you probably do. You probably do need your master's. I would still check out their websites to know for sure, but you're going to need it regardless to get to sit for the RD exam. Okay. All right. Here's a couple more. Where are we at with time? Okay, well, there were a lot of questions, so we are a little behind on time, but I'm glad you all have asked your questions. Here's a few more tips for you. So increasing your chances of getting into these programs, especially if they're competitive and they might be harder to get into or less spots. I think about 3 types of experiences that you need as a future dietitian. I think about 1 being leadership experience, 2 being something in your goal area, your interest area of dietetics, and then another being in your in something with a dietitian. So those would be the 3 that I'd be thinking about, so that you can start networking and figuring and like exploring the fields. I think the key to success with those experiences, and it's similar to like how hard it can be to pitch or reach out to dietitians when you're kind of new to this field. But I think it is a lot about creating opportunities, and it's kind of a numbers game where you're just trying to reach out to local and dietitians around your circle, like with professors, like anyone you know, personal connections, to try to create these opportunities for yourself. Then know that GPA matters for sure, but not as much as the quality of your application. So you could have a 4.0 GPA, put together a really poor application and not get into a program. You can have a 2.5 GPA, have an amazing application and get into a program. So just know that the quality of your application is really important in terms of how you're presenting yourself, how you tell your story about yourself, why your goals line up with the program's goals. You know, there's a lot of strategy there. And that's why we do the personal statement coaching and the admissions coaching, to make sure that you're presenting yourself, giving yourself the best possible chance of getting into that program. For my career changers out there, or people that have maybe slowed down their timeline and have been out of dietetics coursework or never had dietetics coursework, our RD exam prep, we have those types of people use Pass Class, our RD exam prep on our website, or even just our free exam toolkit to refresh on the content so that they feel a little bit more confident going into a dietetics program, even though they have no background knowledge, or it was a while ago. And then finally, download the free application toolkit. That is great for, like I said, personal statement checklist. There's a resume checklist, there's videos, and that is on our How We Can Help page on the homepage. Okay, I think I'm almost done here. And then again, a reminder, if you are interested, then with like the one-on-one coaching, this is going to be our lowest price. And we tend to do this like towards the end because we just want to help as many people as possible. And we know a lot of you are working on applications like this month, next month, towards the end of the year. So this is the lowest price that we have. Personal statement coaching, use code BF23 for 30% off, and then use code BF23 for 40% off our dietetics admissions coaching, which is our all-inclusive for 5 programs, all pieces of the application, everything, and a bunch of coaching calls. So it's designed, we've been doing, like I said, we've been doing admissions coaching now for thousands and thousands of people one-on-one since 2009, and our success rate's 100% the last 3-4 years now. So we definitely, you'd be definitely in good hands, and just feel less stressed, more supported. You don't have to waste time like trying to figure this out on your own. So with that, if there's any other questions, let me know. I can stand for 5 more minutes or so. And I don't know why it's not going to the last slide, but here we are. Maybe that is the last slide. But yeah, I hope this helps. And I hope you got some ideas for how to go through this pathway, because I know it's expensive. I know it takes a long time. So I wanted to give you a different perspective if that's really, can be a barrier for you. Okay, I see another question here. I have a bachelor's and master's degree, no science background. It sounds like a good option would be a master's program with limited prereqs. Yes, I would agree. Since the certificate might not meet state requirements. Yes, okay, because you thought maybe, I mean, I would still look. So your other option is DPD certificate, which you can get one online, which is convenient. DPD certificate plus DI. So that's still an option for you. I would still look into that and maybe just drop what your state is. But, and I could tell you really quick, but I know like North Carolina is one that it requires a bachelor's, and I think South Carolina. But you probably shouldn't quote me on that. I do want you to go to your state licensure board to confirm that for sure, and not make this be the reason you don't, go this path. But yeah, just that'd be it. Okay, thank yous. Okay, awesome. You're in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah, check Tennessee state licensure. And you can even email the state board. They're usually pretty responsive with that. It's under like professional regulations, or if you just search like Tennessee dietitian licensure, you're going to find it, and just, you can confirm it there. But it doesn't sound like it's not ringing a bell that that's one that's an issue. So you should be okay if you did want to go DPD certificate to DI. All right, I got another question. Oh, last question, I promise. It's okay, Elias, I'm here to help. If you had to get your master's in today's time and wanted to save money and time, would you consider a distance program? Oh, like if I personally wanted to do it. So let's see, if you had to get your master's. I wanted to, I do feel like online education has come a really long way. I think if that's what you're getting at, I think the quality of a distance program with the rotations piece. So if you're just talking coursework, I think online is awesome. I think with the rotations, that gets tricky because there's a large spectrum of quality of training that you can get in a distance program, because it's so dependent on your rotation sites. So I can't really speak generally to be like, it's great or it's not. Like, I know people who have amazing rotation sites and distance programs, and then they end up getting hired thereafter. And like, that's what they wanted. They got a rotation at this specific hospital, and then they got hired and it launched their career. And like, that was awesome. And then you have another where they got into a hospital that it wasn't part of an internship, and they got this amazing training that wouldn't have been available because they didn't have an internship, but they got in because of the distance program. So I don't know. I can't speak, because the quality of the rotations is what you should be focusing on. And like, that's what's going to determine whether it's the level of training that you're trying to get out of it. So that's what I would say. And then Kristen, where can I find state requirements for Illinois? Yeah, just, I know because I'm in Illinois that you don't need the bachelor's in nutrition or the bachelor's or master's in nutrition. So a DPD certificate is all good in Illinois if you need that. All right, Ashley says, can I get a somewhat good job with just my bachelor's? I'm taking a gap year after I graduate this spring, and I'm worried about not being able to do much with a bachelor's in nutrition science. Well, no, there's definitely jobs that exist out there. I would say there's like a lot of health coaching jobs that can help you get a lot of practice with counseling, like one-on-one, that I think could be really good. So going like the health coaching route, I don't even know that you would need, sometimes you don't even need like a certificate for health coaching, just having the bachelor's in nutrition. If I'm assuming, yeah, you have bachelor's in nutrition, wait. Yeah, you have bachelor's in nutrition, so that you'd be qualified for. I would say that could be really good, as well as like industry related jobs, or like working for a nutrition focused company. There's definitely opportunity for sure in that space. All right, Madison says, I'm getting my degree not in dietetics, but with a minor in nutrition science, and then I will get my master's. Do you see any possibility of being able to work while doing an internship? So I'm assuming you're saying you're getting your master's with rotations? Because that kind of would alter my opinion. So if you're doing your master's with your internship, like a combined, I do think that would be very hard to, I think it would require a flexible job and a weekends job. And that could be possible. But if you're saying, sorry, but if you're saying like you're going to do your master's and then you're going to do your internship separately, well, I don't even know. Now I'm confused. I assume you mean a GP, like a GPIND is what I'm thinking, or a combine, or yeah, just a GPIND. So I don't know. Sorry, I don't know if I answered that, but it is hard to work during a graduate school and internship, or like graduate school plus your supervised practice. Okay, Kylie says, a coordinated program, you do not need a DPD to get in, just other admissions requirements. True, correct. And then you are completing the DPD coursework during your coordinated master's. Oh, so the coordinated master's program, that type of program is DPD plus rotations plus graduate degree. So it's very similar to the GPIND, except it's just designed differently off a different model. And it depends on like the length, like coordinated programs can be at an undergrad level or a graduate level. So you'd want to go for a coordinated program, a coordinated master's program, which is what you said. So that you don't need to complete an internship in addition, because the internship's included in a coordinated master's program. Yeah, I'm seeing very low paying job options available to me with my bachelor's. Yeah, I mean, depends on where you're looking or trying to figure out like other industries that just generally pay well as opposed to healthcare related jobs. I just don't know what your interests are, but I mean, it's kind of like a weird world that we live in, like where pay can be really low for something that requires so much education. But for example, like your bachelor's in nutrition, I don't know if this interests you, I'm just going to throw it out there, but like virtual assistants can get paid like $35, $40 an hour. And so you might be like a virtual assistant for a dietitian or for a nutrition based practice or something, and get paid like pretty well for that, for your background in nutrition. But it's just the nature of like a VA just demanding a higher pay versus like dietetics related jobs. I'm just gonna throw that out there, but okay. I think that's all I have time for. We're at the end of the hour, but thank you so much for your questions. I'm glad this really resonated with you. And I really encourage you just to go to our website, please, 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 and get the guide and get the database, because those are going to really help you put this all into action. And the research is huge. Your research, I like to tell people, like, your research can save you thousands and thousands of dollars. It's very much worth your time. And if you want to invest in the coaching, that's also a good investment if it means that you're going to pay $10,000 less in tuition because you got into your top choice program. So definitely consider us as your partner and guide throughout this next phase of getting into a program. Have a good rest of the night, everyone. We're sending out the recording, and we'll send out the what's it called? The codes and the links after, but just don't hesitate to reach out, either DM us or email info@allaccessdietetics.com, and we can help you. So thanks again for your awesome participation, lively group tonight, and I hope you have a good rest of the night.
Thank you.
Bye.